If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Our chat today is with Anke Hawke, and Anke's been on before. I know she was on 632 as a listener's choice, and today we're going to talk about 10 training considerations. Okay, so, Anke's the sort of person who asks questions to find out why something's happened, really works. So, she's always gone on and asked a lot of questions. So because she's asked these questions and because she trains horses, she can use these considerations to think, why is this horse a little different? Every horse you're going to train is different. Every time you ask a horse to do something might give you a separate response. But while all this is happening, these are 10 training considerations. And I don't particularly think that they're dressage. I think that these are for anyone that's thinking, my horse is a little different today. What's going on here? And these are 10 things for you to consider to do with, why they're that little bit different. But look, before we start, I'd just like to remind you about the values of International Horse College. So horse welfare and safety are of utmost importance when humans have any interaction with horses. Within the courses at International Horse College, we only utilise methods that promote safe and humane ways of interaction between horses and humans. And we only support safe methods of educating riders, handlers and trainers in all our courses. Have a look at the website, internationalhorsecollege.com, registered training organisation 31352. Now, Anke, are you there today?
Yeah, hi, Glenys, I'm here.
Oh, wonderful. Now, Anke, we've sort of had a bit of a chat about what you're talking about and the 10 training considerations, and I love the way that you've started off with manners. So what can you say about that? I know you love horses with manners. We want them to be a pleasure to be around, the same as we like people to have manners. But what sort of manners are we talking about, and how can we consider that as we're training and working with different horses?
I think one of the main things when you're around horses, I think it's like when you have nice and people, they just introduce themselves and they don't come in with the front door and eat your fridge empty or just help themselves to whatever is available. I think it's similar to horses. If there are horses that are polite and aware of your space, they are easier to handle because they don't bump into you. If you step towards them, they only step away if you need them to step away, or they're just comfortable within your space rather than nipping or nudging or constantly scratching on you or just checking your pockets for treats. So well-mannered horses. Is a horse that is comfortable around you and knows that you respect your personal space, and that goes hand in hand with you respecting their personal space, especially if you don't know them, then approach them from the shoulder and just introduce yourself. So like with an overhead person.
What about if you get horses that are always cranky? Are they trying to tell us something, or is that just them?
I think if you have horses that are always cranky, and I think it's testing on why they're cranky. So if you approach the horse and just pin the ear back, so either it doesn't know you're too fast, but sometimes you have horses that when you touch them on the shoulder, for example, and it's always on one shoulder, things worthwhile looking into it if they actually sore on that shoulder, or if they always pull up one hind leg very quickly, or when you're trying to pick up their feet when they're trying to bite you. So I think there is sometimes an underlying issue. It can be something simple that they just slept wrong, or it can be something more severe that they have maybe arthritis in the shoulder, and that there are also some horses have high and low heel issues. So then they're uneven in the shoulders and they're constantly stand a little wonky. So if you nudge them, then they have plenty to say about it because you put them out of their alignment. And our alignment is slightly to one side. So I think that is worthwhile looking into it and working with a good body worker and a good therapist to find out if it's the platform or if it's the muscle soreness, or, like I said, it's just illness that's been pushed around too much. So there could be different reasons for crankiness.
So the alignment, is that like from head to tail? Is that what we're looking at when you talk about alignment?
I think it's like, again, like a person, if you have a good body posture from head to tail, from the pole to the tail, you normally know very well where your feet are, you know, where your spine is, you kind of can make quick decisions and you're quite stable on your feet. But if you think of martial arts, they're light on their feet, they're ready for anything, and they are elastic enough to respond very quickly. So for me, alignment is the horse that is ready for anything in almost any situation. And normally the horses, on the other hand, very calm because they know where their feet are and how they will respond. So they stay normally pretty calm until there's a reason to do something about it. They're more observant. They're not very flighty. They're more centered. And if you look at them very resolute from head to toe in the alignment, you sometimes can see that they're toed or that they're a bit cow-hocked or that they're really favored on foot and have one grazing foot always a little bit forward, and that they always stand on a crooked angle, and with that they're normally overloading one leg. Mm-hmm. And when you particularly want to try and pick up that foot, they make that life for you very difficult to put a little weight on that foot before you can pick it up because the balance is there.
What about if there is some sort of underlying lameness issues? How can we identify that? I know you said that, you know, the horse, like if there's something, some sort of soreness, you know, they might put their ears back, but if there's underlying lameness issues and we're looking at, what sort of signs would the horse have?
Well, when you look at underlying lameness issues, so sometimes you have a horse that constantly, when you ride it, like at riders would say, it has a crooked head position.
Yes.
Or he finds it really difficult bending to the right. And then look at them, you can see that rotate basically through the hips, they look on one hip and rotate the rib cage out. They find it really tricky lifting the withers and actually giving themselves enough space to sort of front of the chest to actually give themselves enough room to step into that space. I find it works really well doing some straightness training with them, and that sounds really complicated, but in some ways it's not. So you slow the movement down to a pattern where you can watch the footfalls, like one foot after the other. This is not just behavioral training that they're not stepping on you and that they're really, this is really just observing where they're stepping. Are they landing on the inside of their foot? Are they landing with their toe? Are they landing really flat on their heels? Are they constantly overloading the front legs and almost tripping and nudging with the head down? So, and then you carefully correct that step by step. You lift their head a little bit up. You kind of ask them not to step back, but just to rock that little bit back, bring the hind arms just back under and start flexing a bit to the hind legs and slowing movement patterns down. And the smaller you make it to curve, like you would work almost on a 3-meter circle for correct. So they have to step one foot at a time. And this is slowly. This is not a speed race or something that you do very quickly, so they just get overwhelmed and don't keep one foot on the ground. So you really start to observe and then check from one side to the other. So you do the circle to the right, you do the circle to the left, and then you kind of make them wait for it like they didn't step through or left behind, and gradually push them a little bit back on it. So it's a bit of an observer. They're observing their movement and where this is a whole topic of itself. There's some amazing people out there really made it their life work to work on good balancing of horses. So, and it goes from Mano Mendes to Turbo Hendricks over Belinda Goldenbrook, and they have a Ritter dressage people, so they have some really good blogs and websites and books written about it that are easily to understand and to follow, to see where your horse is at. And if you have a horse that is aligned and in balance, and they normally know where their 4 pillars are, and you can move them on their 4 pillars quite confident. And doing that slowly, often you don't use that you turn them into a snail because you have to do them, work the work so slowly that they can make the connections again back to their brain. that they're going to use a right hind leg and then a right front leg and then a left hind leg and then a left front leg. And that they go in that pattern and not just miss one and turn around, for example, that left front leg, or really stepping wide with the right hind leg. So you really reconnect their brain to their movement pattern and putting them back into balance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredibly slow in the beginning, but very rewarding. So to put them back into a balance and teaching them with their joints.
Thinking about horses, and they've got different, and I know that, manners are like one thing, but their personality. How can we consider that? Because every horse they've all got their own personality, but some are a different type of personality. Some are very boisterous, and others, I suppose, we're extroverts, introverts, different types of personalities. How can we work with that when we're training and working around our horses?
I think you just got to take every horse like every person, like they are. So I think we have some friends that are always up front, out loud. The very first one, then wants to be invited to the party because they make the party really come to life. And I think, and it's the same, you have a quieter friend you can really rely on because he's more solid and really sturdy and not so impulsive. And I think when you have horses like that, you just got to playing with their personality. If you have a really stoic horse that is quiet and solid, you can put them probably more in a situation where he would hold up. Mm-hmm. While when you have a really nervous, insecure, maybe younger horse, I think it's always nice to bring a buddy along with them so that they have a friend to look over them and make sure that they're in a safe situation, or that they have someone to check on to and lean on a little bit. I think it's a little bit of common sense, and I think also how you behave around your horse too. If you have a horse that's generally quite fidgety and always has to, we have 2 horses here on the property. One of them is like the supervisor. He knows that everything's going on. And the other one, she's more cunning one. She kind of waits it and observes from a distance and comes when she feels safe. But they're very different. And you can't change certain patterns in them. But I think if you have a bold horse, you can do more bold things with them. And I think if you have a flighty horse, you've got to be a very secure, mature person that they can rely on you to be that steady horse. So you just got to watch them and observe them a bit. You have, like your friends. I'm sure you have different friends that are all kinds of shapes and personalities. So
sure. I'm thinking about, horses, and we generally think training is about the riding lessons, what we're doing with the horse, training them when we ride. But how important is it thinking about the whole horse and, considering the whole horse when we're looking at training them, not just the riding lessons?
I'm always, I love that question because I really find it amazing when you have, when I get students, for example, when people move their horses, I find sometimes you got to look at their whole well-being again. So they need friends, they need foliage, and they need a bit of space. So when you have horses like that, I think it's worthwhile looking into the entire pattern. Are they in a comfortable environment? Are they near a giant highway where there's lots of trucks going past, especially just moved them, so you have to actually have a decent night's sleep? Also, are they with their stable neighbour? I mean, you all have, again, neighbours at home. The neighbours are just beautiful, and we have the neighbours you fight across the fence with all the time. And it's the same with horses. If they have a really anxious horse next to them all night that box walks and they're not the most sensible one, then of course your horse is quite unsettled before you even start riding. And the same goes with food and diet. Do you have different horses that I think your thoroughbreds, you really can feed them quite a fair bit because they're high energy horse and they also burn a lot of food. While when you have a Clyde or something more sturdy, they can live, like a Shetland pony, they can almost live with an oily rag. They still need their vitamins and supplements, but you can't feed them the same. So you kind of got to, again, look at your horse. And again, there's people that do that for a living, they're looking into nutrition. But I think looking at your horse's age and weight and breed, it's really important then to feed them accordingly to what they need, and also then to the work that you want to do with them, not just necessarily feeding them what your neighbour feeds them. So, for example, if you have a young horse that is still growing, I certainly think they need more supplements and nutrition and higher, richer diet that they can get the growth out of the food, together with the stimulation and the education, rather than having an old mature horse that is perfectly weighed and quite comfortable. You don't have to feed them just because the neighbour feeds the horse well. So you got to look into that as well. And I think if you look at the whole horse, a great farrier makes your life really worthwhile and easy, because you really put the horse in a good balance. So if you have really good food, so like I said, with no hoof, no horse. So if you have really good shoes on or even bare feet, and you have a good trimmer, I think that makes your life much easier than having a horse that is shot every 8 weeks. The shoes are loose, or you ride them on the road and they have gone through the road nails, or they have gone through the nails, and then the first time you hear road nails, and you give them a bit more grip. But on the main time, again, you got to assess the situation and work in the environment that you're in. If you can ride them on soft ground, if you ride them a lot on the road. Where I was before, I was on a lot of sandstone and asphalt. I haven't had a choice but to put shoes on, because otherwise it was like riding on sandpaper or putting boots on. And a good farrier will give you very solid advice, together with a good diet, and that the hoof grows.
Okay.
It's a big big thing having a healthy horse with social friends and good diet and good feed and also with good tack. So
I was going to ask you about the tack.
You
know, the tack itself. It's got to be comfortable for both of you.
Yeah, it's got to be comfortable for both, and I think it's got to be the right thing for the right job.
Yes.
So I think, again, you have to have a bit that fits in your horse's mouth, and some horses have really big tongues, and some of them have really, they just have, like us, if you wear your pair of shoes and not the one from your friend, and the same with the saddle. So depending on how your structure of the body is, you got to find a saddle that fits you. So that's the twist, waist, and also the length of the saddle. The same, depending how long your horse is and how round your horse is, you got to find a shape that fits on your horse's back. And I think nowadays you have so many saddles to choose from that you really can find something that fits both of you. And again, I noticed while I was near Sydney, we were spoiled for choice with saddleries and saddle fitters, and there's a lot of really good people out there. You move a little bit away and you realise it's much harder to find a good saddle fitter and find a good saddlery nearby. So it's trickier, but I think it's absolutely worthwhile to find a really comfortable saddle for both of you that your horse can develop over the back. Because if you have something that is uneven over the withers, and you even maybe have a horse that has low and high heel and is uneven through the shoulders, and then you have a saddle that pinches on that area a bit more, so that's a disaster going to unfold slowly. So you got to address all of it. You got to align your horse, you got to find a good farrier, and you got to find a good saddle fitter to make sure that all of that is addressed.
Yep. Yep. Now, what about, we're talking about how the horse is reacting, but it's how are we reacting? So how important is our body language and what we're doing?
Yeah, I always have to take mine when I was riding, and I had people they wanted to watch, but they didn't want to come in and announce themselves, so they crashed like the kites in the bushes. You crazy riding around, and just noticed that your horse got getting incredibly hot, and for no reason, because I didn't see them, and she clearly hit them. And the next thing I know, there was this beautiful young girl standing there, and she quietly asked, "Can I watch?" But just again, can you please come in and say hello and introduce yourself, because you just frighten us. So I think often, this is also, again, people that don't have a lot to do with animals, but when you're more aware of your body language, if you're afraid of something and you sneak up and like you hide the wording text behind your body and make it really walk into the stable quite awkwardly, your horse knows that you're up to no good. So they just already, before they see the wording paste, they know there's something coming that they shouldn't trust. So you can't, but if you treat it like you have the best treat in your hand ever, and you just go in to give it to them, and they probably look not necessarily look forward to it, but they're much more open to the idea that this is not going to kill them. So your body language has a lot to do with that, with the handling and going confidently up to your horse. And, not that you have to have your hackles up and pump your chest out and become bigger than her, but just that you walk in there with a bit of presence and that you just quietly know what you're doing without being aggressive makes a huge difference to them. They read your body language before you enter the barn. They know what you're up to. So they watch you get out of the car if they have a chance, and they kind of know exactly what mood you're in before you even open the stable door. So that's something to be really aware of. And they teach you what things do.
All of these things, Anke, these training considerations, things to consider about your horse. And this is even before you get on. Once you've sort of got those sorted, and you can get on and start riding him and then have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing too, we often forget that you have to get your horse your friend first. So if he doesn't trust you on the ground and you're already battling on the ground and you tell them who's leading whom and they're running to you or they bump into you and they take off and they spook left and right, and I often amazed and then people get on and ride their horses. I wouldn't feel very safe on the horse because on the ground you really taught me didn't think much of my idea of leadership or trust for that matter. So the minute then I put my foot in the stirrup, it's going to be often even more of a worry. So I think it really starts with ground manners and being a bit of a friend and a trusting partner. So when you have time, spend some time walking around with your horse and leading him from A to B. And if you're not the only one that can do that, I have a friend that has a horse too that is very solid on the road. You will be amazed what difference that can make. Mm-hmm. And even for me, it was something that I learned much later because I started learning to ride in a riding school with a lot of different people, and you were basically handed a horse ready, packed up, ready to go. So I didn't know any better, so you climbed on board and sometimes you realized they were really cranky. And then when you got off, you realized that the goose was done up with a foot or that the saddle blanket wasn't even. And I think that when you want to ride and have riding lessons, you kind of got to learn all of that. When I worked for quite a while in a riding school, I remember the parents were always upset. It was a rainy day, and we said, today we're doing horsemanship. And they got, why do I pay for this? You still need a horse, you still need a tack, and you still need a safe environment to do it. And the riding is the icing on the cake. You girl normally they all want to buy a horse. And you kind of got to know where their feet are, how to pick them up, why do you brush your horse, and how do you brush your horse, and how do you do that in a comfortable way, that it's not just a chore and you start banging out with a couple of brushes on your back. So it's a huge part of before you even get on understanding and, and working with them and making them comfortable.
Yeah. If people would like to contact you, they've sort of talked to you and they know how important it is to have the horse right before you even get on. If people would like to contact you about lessons or about asking you, asking your advice, what's the best way for them to contact you? I mean, I shouldn't say that because the details will be on horsechats.com/Anke Hawke 2, or just go to horsechats.com, search for Anke or search for Hawke. But if they'd like to contact you direct, what's the best way?
Quite easy. I'm very approachable, so you can call me any time on my mobile. Just deal with it. Yes, I think it's on the site. If you want to pass it out and have you pass it out, they can always send me an email. So I'm on or they can contact me by Facebook. On the Facebook business page on Messenger. So I'm on Instagram. So there's lots of different ways to
contact you.
Like I said, I'm very open.
Good.
I happily have a conversation. And so anyone that wants to learn or has a question and has anything that is unusual, I think it's a great way to find out more. And like I said, I also find that you to collaborate with a couple of people. One person never has all the answers, but if you have a real puzzle, it's really good to work with a couple of people together.
It is.
And find out how you can help your horse. There's never just one solution for all of them. And I'm amazed over the years how many different horses I've met and seen. And how they all react very, very differently. Certainly there's people on horse.
Yep, okay. All right, Anke, well, great to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
That would be lovely.
Yep, just looking forward to the chat. Okay, thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Glenys. Bye.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.